Ever since Final Fantasy I was first released in 1987, people have been wanting to know, what is the true story behind Garland? When I think of villains who need a redemption arc, I immediately think of Garland from FF1. Now, the small brain people would want you to think he's just a chaotic villain from a 1987 Nintendo game, but anyone who bench presses with their frontal lobe will know that that's fake. The Four Fiends? Let me stop and ask you something, my brother. You ever stop and think why the Fiends were fiending? Square, in collaboration with Team Ninja, have finally decided to answer this question in the form of Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. You take the role of Jack Garland, and as a man with the vocabulary of 20 words, such as myself, Jack is an insanely relatable protagonist. This ultra-powerful Sigma male only knows one thing: killing chaos. There's also other characters such as Iris or Red Prompto, not to be confused with the other Red Prompto from the Terrier timeline. There's also Mommy, there's also Ash. He's, nice. They're all nice characters whose backstories are, and they have a lot of personal motivations, which are, listen, the point is that they are here to kill chaos at all costs. Why the do you need a backstory or anything else to relate to for that? If you can't relate to waking up and wanting to kill philosophical concepts, that's on you. Now, the combat is the highlight of this game, where you rip apart classic Final Fantasy monsters with a wide array of Final Fantasy jobs to choose from. This is undeniably the strongest part of the game, as experimentation with jobs and doing big combos are the pinnacle of this experience. You'll face off against a wide variety of enemies such as elementals, bats, elementals, big worm, and even elementals. The game also offers co-op because it's empathetic enough to know that nobody should ever have to suffer alone. But the level design is truly where this game shines, taking all of your favorite Final Fantasy environments and smearing Vaseline all over them. But that's so that you can slide right on in. You can immediately tell how well designed these levels are, taking notes from some of the most well-designed dungeons and environments in the Final Fantasy franchise, such as Arum Vale and the Cloister of Trials. But the real genius in this game, undeniably, is the storytelling. This is clearly where most of the attention with this game went. I mean, this is an absolute masterpiece level, bro. When a cutscene does happen, Jack skips it because he thinks the story in this game sucks.
I don't give a
Instead of boring you with things like exposition and coherence, they just jump right into the action. And if you need more, you can read the little Xehanort reports you can find around. Now, if you're used to the environmental storytelling of the Soulsborne games, the environmental storytelling here is brilliant. If you carefully examine the environment here, and I mean, you're gonna need to get really close to the screen for this, but if you observe carefully, you can tell that you are in fact playing a Final Fantasy game. Maybe. The music in this game calls back on 35 years of Final Fantasy history, but played softly like your mom told you to turn that music down. Though it does have a couple of boss tracks that admittedly go way harder than they had to. This game gives you tons of loot because Jack never wears the same drip twice. During my playthrough, I actually began to count how frequently I got full new gear sets. And when I did, I got 5 completely new gear sets in 20 minutes. About to look fresh as hell when I run up on Chaos. Oh, and don't bother trying to fool with the upgrade system in normal or hard mode, as you'll always get a new piece of gear that replaces anything you upgrade almost immediately. I don't want to speak too hastily, but this might be the most gear system in any video game ever. Stranger of Paradise's genius will go over the heads of so many who lack the supreme intelligence to understand this masterpiece. Sure, some people will realize that something about Jack is rather off, never truly processing why this is a bold new experience for Final Fantasy. And that is why I am giving Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin a 10, -6, +8, divided by 2 out of 10.